A kingdom divided. Charles I and the road to war, 1625 to 1642. Charles I inherited the throne in 1625. He inherited his father's belief in the divine right of kings. This belief put him at odds with Parliament from the start. Parliament sought to limit royal power. They wanted a greater say in governing the nation. Adding fuel to the fire was Charles's marriage to Henrietta Maria. She was a Catholic. This alarmed England's Protestant majority. Many feared a return to Catholicism. Tensions grew when Charles dissolved Parliament multiple times. He did this to avoid their demands for reform. Charles's attempts to raise funds without Parliament backfired. His methods, like ship money, angered the wealthy. They saw it as an abuse of power. Religious policies further divided the nation. Charles and Archbishop Laud sought to impose a high Anglican uniformity. This alienated Puritans and sparked unrest in Scotland. By 1640, England teetered on the brink of war. Charles had alienated Parliament, the wealthy and religious groups. The execution of his advisor, the Earl of Strafford, deepened the divide. The Irish Rebellion in 1641 further stoked fears and mistrust. The stage was set for a bloody conflict. England at war with itself. The Civil Wars, 1642 to 1649. In 1642, civil war erupted between Charles I and Parliament. The king's supporters, the royalists, clashed with the parliamentarians led by Oliver Cromwell. England was divided. Families and communities were torn apart. The First Civil War, from 1642 to 1646, saw battles rage across the land. Edgehill, Marston Moor, Naseby, names etched in blood. Cromwell's new model army, a disciplined and effective force, gained the upper hand. Their victory at Naseby in 1645 proved decisive. Charles III, captured and imprisoned, refused to concede defeat. He played for time, hoping to exploit divisions within Parliament. His gambit led to the Second Civil War in 1648. It was a desperate gamble that backfired. Cromwell crushed the royalist uprisings. The Lord Protector, Cromwell's Commonwealth, 1649 to 1660. With Charles V defeated, England embarked on a radical experiment, a republic. The monarchy was abolished, the House of Lords was dissolved. England became the Commonwealth. At its head stood Oliver Cromwell, a figure of immense military and political skill. Cromwell, now Lord Protector, faced challenges on all sides. He brutally subdued uprisings in Ireland and Scotland. He sought to establish a godly and stable England. His rule was marked by religious toleration for many Protestant groups, but it was also a time of strict moral codes. The Protectorate, however, was built on shaky foundations. Cromwell's rule depended on the might of the army. He faced opposition from royalists, levellers, and even within his own ranks. When he died in 1658, his republic died with him. The return of the king, the restoration of Charles II, 1660 to 1685. England, weary of Puritan rule and instability, yearned for a return to familiar ways. In 1660, Charles II, son of the executed king, returned from exile. The monarchy was restored. The Church of England was revived. It was a time of celebration and relief. Charles II, a shrewd and pragmatic ruler, understood the need for reconciliation. He sought to heal the wounds of the past. He offered pardons and promised a more tolerant approach, but the scars of the civil wars ran deep. The Cavalier Parliament, eager to restore order, enacted harsh measures against dissenters. The Clarendon Code aimed to ensure Anglican conformity. Religious tensions continued to simmer beneath the surface. Section 5, a Catholic on the throne, James II and the Revolution, from 1685 to 1688. When Charles II died in 1685, his brother James, a Catholic, inherited the throne. This raised immediate alarm bells. England had not forgotten the religious conflicts of the past. James's faith made him deeply unpopular. James II, however, seemed determined to test the limits of his power. He sought to promote Catholicism. He appointed Catholics to positions of authority. He issued a declaration of indulgence, granting freedom of worship to Catholics. This was a step too far for many. The birth of James's son in 1688 turned fear into action. The prospect of a Catholic dynasty was unacceptable to Parliament and the Protestant elite. They began to look for a way out of the crisis. Section 6. The Glorious Revolution, a New Era for Britain, 1688 to 1689. In 1688, Parliament took the extraordinary step of inviting William of Orange to invade England. William was a Protestant, married to James II's daughter, Mary. The invitation was a direct challenge to James's authority. William landed in England with an army. James II, abandoned by many of his supporters, fled to France. This bloodless coup became known as the Glorious Revolution. It marked a turning point in British history. William and Mary ascended the throne as joint monarchs, but they did so on Parliament's terms. They accepted the Bill of Rights in 1689. This landmark document limited royal power. It guaranteed Parliament's sovereignty. It was the birth of constitutional monarchy. Section 7. The Legacy of Revolution, Constitutional Monarchy and Beyond. The Glorious Revolution had profound consequences for Britain. It enshrined the principle of parliamentary supremacy. The monarch was no longer above the law. Power shifted from the crown to Parliament. This paved the way for the development of modern British democracy. The events of 1688 also had a lasting impact on religious life. The Act of Toleration granted freedom of worship to nonconformist Protestants. Catholics, however, continued to face discrimination. The legacy of religious conflict would continue to shape British society for centuries to come. The Glorious Revolution was a defining moment in the long and tumultuous journey of the British people. It marked the end of absolute monarchy and the beginning of a new era of constitutional government. It was a victory for individual liberty and the rule of law. Section 8. Religion and Power, the Enduring Theme. Throughout the tumultuous years from 1625 to 1688, the intertwined forces of religion and power shaped the destiny of Britain. From Charles I's battles with Parliament over religious uniformity to James II's ill-fated attempts to reassert Catholicism, religious beliefs were never far from the centre of political conflict. The English Civil War, often portrayed as a clash between Crown and Parliament, was fueled in no small part by deep-seated religious divisions. The execution of Charles I, a stark symbol of the era's turmoil, was driven as much by anxieties about the role of the Church as by disputes over political power. Even the Glorious Revolution, with its emphasis on parliamentary supremacy and individual liberties, was deeply rooted in religious anxieties. The fear of a Catholic dynasty and the desire to secure Protestant dominance played a central role in the events of 1688. Section 9. Conclusion: A tumultuous century, a transformed nation. The 73 years between 1625 and 1688 witnessed Britain transformed. The nation endured civil war, regicide and revolution. It experimented with republicanism before ultimately reaffirming the monarchy, albeit in a profoundly altered form. From the autocratic rule of Charles I to the constitutional monarchy established by the Glorious Revolution, Britain underwent a profound shift in its political culture. The events of this era shaped the nation's identity, leaving an enduring legacy of parliamentary democracy, individual liberty and the rule of law. The journey was long and arduous, marked by bloodshed, upheaval and uncertainty. But through these trials, Britain forged a new path, laying the foundations for the modern nation it would become.